Hello and welcome back to another video. In this tutorial we're going to be addressing how to unstack data. So stack data, as you can see in our example there in column A, can often come about when you're trying to copy information or even maybe download information or data from various sources, maybe it's online or from a different source internally. That's where the formatting is maybe not quite right, and you get presented with this information here. So rather than having the data all nicely presented out, so you've got all your clear column headers and then each record or row of information thereafter, it's all condensed into one single column. So as we can see, we've got here is the first four rows are our column headers. So the currency code, name, units per US dollar, and units US dollar per units. And it's worth noting that this is just some currency or exchange information or exchange rates we've got off of the internet. So the first four are our column headers, and then they kind of move in. Each record moves in groups of four. So the detail for those headers. So the first one's here is so for US dollar, we can see that US dollar. The code is in row 5, the name is in row 2, units per US dollar is in row 7, and then likewise per unit is in 1. And each currency therefore does this thereafter. So what we want to do is to get this into a more manageable format. So as we touched on, having all those column headers clearly put in row 1 by 1, and then each currency having a clear row with all that information contained in there. The problem that we have is you might be able to find different solutions online, or there might be even some tools that you can buy or people are trying to get you to use to do this. But what we're going to do is cover off a simple solution of how you can get around this relatively quickly and without sort of actually too much complex knowledge or any formulas or complex formulas at all. So one problem we often have is you want to try and use formulas to do this. So if you do cell references, as you can see, if you try and reference currency code, or let me just populate all these. So say we wanted to reference all of where our column headers were, we could do that by just referencing each individual one. And let me just do I as well. So we've got 4, and you can see we've managed to pull them through there. So they're all great. But to do all the other information, we'd have to reference each individual reference itself. So as you can see here, we've had to go A1, A2, A3, and A4. But then if we try to drag this down, you can see that it's going to give us the second piece down here because it's always going to be relative. So whereas we're looking here at row 1, if you pull down, it's going to look at row 2. What doesn't work for our scenario here. What would actually have to happen is if you dragged this one to the right, you can see that actually units per that is now referencing the wrong altogether. It's looking at a different column. So putting formulas in and then dragging them about is not going to work at all. What we actually need to do is we kind of need to cheat the formula part of it, and then we're going to use find and replace to then give us the desired or to turn it back into a formula, should we say. So what we're going to do is for each of the ones we've just now populated in here, we're going to just get rid of the equal sign and replace that with the EE, and EE just standing for Essential Excel. We'll give it our name. So we've got EEA1 there, and we're just going to do that for all of these ones here. And you'll notice, obviously, as I enter this in, it's taking away the formula. So you're just going to have EE and then the cell reference. And then let's do that one last one there in I. Just get rid of that equal sign there. Oh, just double clicked. Get rid of the equal sign there, EE. So we can see that our column headers are in the references A1, A2, A3, A4, with obviously the EE just being our little code references were put in there. So what we now need to do is we now need to just enter into here where our first piece of information, so for US dollar, what is going to be row 5 through to row 8. So this is the information we want. So we just now need to enter these references below what we've started doing in column F through to I. So the first one is going to be reference A5. So in here we'll just do our EE again, and this time we'll put in here A5 because A5 is the US dollar, what relates to the currency code, what's in row 1 currently. So we can now populate this along, and what we can actually do, because we want 6, 7, and 8 to follow on from what we've got here, we can actually drag this now, and that will actually do those numbers for us. So you can see it's gone A5, A6, 7, and 8. Perfect. And you can now see this pattern we briefly touched on. So there's between the column header, what's in row 1, there's actually then a gap of 4 between each of those with the correct corresponding information. So that's great to know. The good thing in Excel is, and the reason we've put in these 2 rows, is so that Excel, like what we did, we just identified that pattern where it's going once every 4. Excel will also recognize that pattern as well. If we were to just select this one row here and drag that down, you can see all it's going to do is actually just going to copy the information we've already taken. So that's no use to us at all. We want Excel to identify and then replicate that jumping of 4 rows each time. So what we can do is if we select all of this information we've done so far, Excel can see and identify that range difference. And if we then drag that down, you can see that it will then start applying that constantly as we pull down. So you can see between each row there's going to be jumping the number of 4. It's going to jump 4 rows in terms of the references. So we can now see that we've got in the currency code, the first 3 we've got here is row A5, what's perfect, that's US dollar. The next one is A9, so great, that's euro. And then the last one here at the moment is A13. So yep, that's going to then go to GBP. So that's working perfectly. What I'm just going to do is scroll down to the bottom of my existing stacked data, and we can see that the last piece of information we need is in row 36. So if I scroll back up here, and again make sure I have 2 rows selected when I'm doing this, I'm just going to pull this down, number of rows here, right, and then we can see row 36 is here, or reference to A36 is just here in row 9. So what I can do is I will just remove these other references because we don't need them. So let's go clear contents, perfect, and then go back towards the top, and then you can see everything we need. So right, we've got all of our references to where the data is. All we now need to do is turn these back into a formula. So to do that, if we just highlight all of the references that we've got, if we just do Control and F, we'll bring up Find and Replace. So what we want to do, and it's actually already half put in here, is what we can do is go into, well, default you'll go into Find, and then we want to go into the Replace tab. So what we want to do is we want to find our reference we put in there of EE. So we want to find EE and replace that with the equal sign to turn it to a formula. So whatever reference you put in here, you can use EE if that suits you, or you can do anything else, but you just got to make sure that you remember obviously what those 2 digits are, because they're going to be replaced by an equal sign now. So we're going to find EE and replace that with the equal sign, what will then turn it back into a formula. So if we go replace all, made 36 replacements, brilliant, thank you very much, close this, and you can now see that we've turned everything back into a formula, and as perfectly as desired, it's now also referencing the correct data that we need. So it's now unstacked all of that information. I'm just going to put a comma there. It's now unstacked our data and put it into the format that we need, so we can now use VLOOKUPs on this data, or we could summarize it if we desired. So we hope you found that video very useful, and that's giving you a solution for a very frustrating problem if you've ever faced it, or just getting you ready, because I'm sure you'll face stacked data at some point when working with Excel. So if you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that bell notification so you are notified of all our videos as soon as they come out. As always, links to our social media and our website can be found in the description to this video, so please do give those a check those out. If you have any questions at all, you can drop us a comment below this video, or or get in contact via one of the links in the description. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next video.